What's up, it's Guru Jojo. In this video, I basically want to speak about karma, how to be more consciously aware of your karma. This is a part 2 to my video, Guru and Intro to Karma Part 1. I'm basically going to be going over another method, probably 3 or 4 other methods into how to see your karma. And so you can gain more control over your life if possible. You know, the rest we have to leave up to external events. But for the most part, why it's important to be aware of your karma is because your karma is pretty much your gifts actually in this lifetime. It's the gifts that you have. But with gifts, there's always a blessing or a curse because we can overindulge in our gifts. And when you overindulge in something, the overexertion of that energy causes the energy to be inadequate. Not inadequate, but it causes it to run out. And then on the other hand, if you don't use the energy enough, then that's when the energy could become inadequate. So that's pretty much what karma is about. It's whatever gift that you tend to indulge in or you don't use, thus it causes great benefits or hardships pretty much to you. So in the intro to karma video, the first method that I mentioned is that you could pretty much identify with your parents in order to see your karma. Because chances are whatever type of behavioral habits that they partake in, chances are was passed down to you as well. And this doesn't matter if you were adopted or if it's your blood parents or blood family. At the end of the day, you're going to adopt the behavioral traits of the behavioral habits of the family you were adopted into. So now I could do another video more specifically on the karma behind anybody who was adopted into a family, but it requires a separate video, so only if it's requested. No, I might do it anyway. So anyways, besides that, here are the other methods. So the second method is going to be finding out the story behind your birth. So if there's any type of way that you could find out, you know, how your mom found out that she was pregnant with you, when she found out, what was going on in the environment at the time, and also if you find out, what else? If you find out like what, where you were born, obviously you know where you were born, so the location of your birth and everything, all these things influence. So let me provide some examples, and your vitals too will tell you. This literally tells you like everything about your karma. You could find this out through, like me personally, I found my mom's diary, but at the end of the day, my mom always spoke about like, you know, about me. So from what I understand, I was pretty much, so find out if you were unplanned or you were planned. So I wasn't planned. My mom actually wasn't supposed to be able to have kids because she had tumors on her uterus. So AKA she had a hormonal imbalance. So she really wasn't even supposed to have kids. My brother and I were a miracle. She tried to have another child before my brother, and she had a miscarriage. The doctor pretty much declared that she would not be able to have kids. But I'm here. My brother's here too. Not here physically, but he's alive, living in Florida. But anyways, it's not the point. The point being is that this caused me to be premature. So I had a premature birth, right? I was only 4 pounds and 4 ounces. So now when you take these events into account, how does this influence my karma? Well, for one, I know that I was unplanned. So part of my karma in this lifetime will always be circumstances I will get into in which it was not planned, it was unexpected. I have these random opportunities, benefits, like beneficial opportunities given to me, but it was completely unplanned and unexpected. Why? Because that's the way that I kind of came here anyway. Also, since I was 4 pounds and 4 ounces, I was defined as premature. So I also often get into situations where I appear to be inadequate for an opportunity, right? So I had the opportunity to come here to Earth, right? But I was not at the proper weight. So then I got defined as, you know, premature, inadequate, basically. So this represents a lot of the scenarios that I've gone through in my life as well. And then in addition to that, you know what I'm saying? I was immediately after birth, immediately after birth, I was brought to the ICU because I was in critical condition and I had to stay under the incubator. So my energy surrounded by anxiety. Naturally, this is a karma that I have. What else? But it's like there's a miracle energy that's connected with me too. So it's like I'm always appear to be inadequate or without, but somehow it's like I made it or something like that. It's weird. And this is pretty much a lot of my life scenarios in general. Like it's almost like I just made it or something. Like it's weird. But this is how you, so the stuff that I just mentioned, like vitals, and those various details, it provides insight into my karmic experiences, and also too, I was born in a town that was predominantly a different culture than my family and in the religious background that I got born into. So the town I was born in, it was predominantly Hasidic Jew. I might have pronounced it wrong, but y'all get what I'm saying. It was predominantly Hasidic Jewish, and pretty much Hasidic Jewish is what it's called, I believe. If I pronounced that wrong, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to pronounce it incorrect. So that's pretty much that influences my energy as well, because like it's like I always feel like I'm in places or environments or situations where I feel like different than the rest of the community, and it's subconscious for me. A lot of times people may not even see it that way, but it's just how I feel because I was born in that type of circumstance. So it's karmic. So you see what I'm trying to say? So if you find out the details behind you coming into this reality, then you could find out, like you could see your karma and how it's playing out through how you came here in the first place. Now, the next way that you could find out about your karma is through realizing any type of subconscious habits, any subconscious behaviors that you partake in, which cause you to be misjudged or misguided. So what I'm trying to say is anything that you do without thinking that causes some sort of disruption to your surroundings and environment that leads to them misjudging you or something like that and causes suspicion, whatever they're suspicious about, that's your karma. You most likely did that in a past life, and therefore it's like that shadow is following you around and people are picking up on that aura, and it causes you to be like misjudged. An example of this is, let's say you go to 7-Eleven and you happen to have your favorite bottle of iced tea with you while you were driving there in the car or something, right? And like you brought the iced tea with you in the store without thinking. And then so you go to 7-Eleven, you pick up like some cereal, maybe some dog food, and some gum, and you put it on the counter, and you see the cashier is eyeing you funny, like, so you just decide to say like, oh, I actually didn't get this from here, I brought it from home. And then the cashier is like, oh, okay, because that looks a lot like the iced teas that are in the back. And you heard how she said that, you saw her face, and so you respond, you're just like, okay, I understand that you might have these iced teas in the back, but like I said, I got it from home, or else I would have put it on the counter too. Like, it's just like scenarios like that occurs, misunderstandings. Chances are, whatever misunderstanding that is, you might have partaken in that type of behavior in a past life. And that's why now you're subconsciously repeating those behaviors, although that's not your intentions. So it's any type of scenario where you accidentally get involved in criminal activity, or if you accidentally get involved in a situation that causes you to be misjudged, you most likely, that's your karma from a past life. You partake it in those habits in a past life. And so then the last way to figure out your karma is going to be through astrology. In astrology, pretty much astrology provides the energy that was actually going on the day you were born and the time you were born. So your birth chart is basically, it represents the energetic signature that was going on at the time and day that you were born. So you can use that to literally see your karma, because if that's the energy you were born into, you are traveling this 3D realm with that energy attached to you pretty much. So you're bound to experience the karma that's associated with it. So that's pretty much how astrology works. Now, specifically karmic experiences, you're going to see this in your retrograded planets. If you don't have retrograded planets, look in your 8th house if you have planets in your 8th house or planets in your 12th house. And then also you can look at your south node. Now, your retrograde planets are simply going to tell you about any type of behavior, any type of energy that, so if you have a planet retrograde, that means that energy that's being expressed, which is the planet, is disrupted in its processing because of some sort of emotional hold, like from holding in your emotions basically too much, to the point that now the energy gets like cloudy and misty. There's a lack of clarity, so it doesn't process properly. It's like it's hard for you to understand that, it's hard for you to express that energy basically. And then it can also be hard for others to just understand it as a result. And then it can even be as hard for you to understand when others express that energy. So something like Mercury retrograde, a lot of times Mercury retrograde people, they need like examples and metaphors to understand logical information, because they need for whatever you're saying to evoke an emotional stance, an emotional feeling for them to understand where you're coming from. Another example of like Mercury retrograde would just simply be that the processing of rational and logical information, just like information in general, can be disrupted because of a need to kind of like indulge in the emotions. So it's hard to explain, but it's almost like somebody could want to communicate with you, but if you don't feel comfortable, you may not be able to even listen to what they're saying and understand what they're saying at all, because it's like there's an indulgence in one's own thoughts and feelings. So it causes a disruption to really understanding the point, the message that's being conveyed. It's the best way to explain it. Any planet retrograde plays out this way. Planets in your 8th house plays out similarly. It's just where that planet that's in the 8th house gets disrupted because of some sort of emotional insecurity or sexuality issue in which the person holds in too long, and thus it causes like emotional extremes within that energy. Planets in the 12th house, this is similar to retrograde planets too. The only difference is that the processing of the planet that's in the 12th house gets disrupted by some sort of past experience that's disrupting the present circumstances. So it's basically could cause like a delusion a little bit, or just being too much in your imagination to the point that you're not in tune with reality. And the planet may flip-flop between these frequencies. Between the frequency of delusion and reality, and this could cause like emotional extremes as well. And then planets in the 12th house also, this could mean disruption of the planet in that house because of some sort of overindulgence in other people's experiences and other people's emotions and feelings. So it's like the person could escape their own expression of that planet and end up tuning too much into everybody else's emotional stance instead. And thus, this causes a disruption to the processing of that planet, because it's like a lack of identity there. It doesn't have any boundaries. So those are the methods into understanding your karma, being more consciously aware of it so that you can properly start to be more aware of when you're like expressing karma. And before I forgot, the south node is the other one. So in astrology, to see your karma, the south node basically plays out as when you partake in behaviors related to your South Node, this is more of the karma where people understand, where they say like what goes around comes around. It's like whatever behavior that you do that's related to your South Node, it comes back, and it's like you get like slapped by spirit. It's weird. It's like you do it and then it comes back to you pretty quickly. As a result, it shows you, because your South Node. So your South Node is basically where you're supposed to liberate yourself. It's called moksha, and it basically means to let, like, it means basically to let go, to liberate. So you're supposed to sacrifice that energy. You're not really supposed to partake in those habits. You're supposed to balance out your North and your South Node together. So you're supposed to utilize your North Node to express your South Node. But as soon as you start to directly express your South Node, then what happens is you face karma, because you're actually living backwards. You already did that. And like life is going to tell you like, like, so it puts you into like, you could get put into like bad scenarios as a result. So it's important to, it's like you don't really get any blessings from your South Node. It's almost like a very quick comfort to realize that you were wrong or something like that. So it's important to, realize these different ways that we can see our karma. You don't only have to use astrology. Astrology is just a great tool, but you can see your karma through just literally paying attention to your life and your life experiences itself, and extracting the lesson or the big picture behind anything. And that's pretty much the methods that I described. So hopefully this video was helpful. Yeah, bye.